Welcome to Parents Make a Difference, and I'm your host, Josie PV. Today I am looking forward to speaking to an old friend of mine who I think has a lot of wisdom to share with us today. Her name is Colleen Phillips. Welcome, Colleen.
It's great to be here, Josie. Thank you so much. It's always wonderful for us to just, connect with each other and just share our lives, but more importantly, just to inspire people by the experiences that we've had.
You're right, absolutely. And I was interested in hearing that you are part of an organization helping the realization, of course, that Black Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can give us a little bit about background about yourself and then what you're doing with that organization.
So my background is I originally came from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's an island in the Eastern Caribbean Antilles. It's close by to Barbados, St. Lucia, absolutely beautiful island. I came to Canada when I was 6 years old. So for the most part, my formal education has been in Canada, but I've never forgotten home. And even though I've been in Canada for so long, St. Vincent is still home. I have incredible fond memories of the island. And for myself, I studied neuroscience and psychology at the University of Toronto, and then went on to do a post-degree in human resources management. I've always had this passion and interest in people, in their stories. Everyone has a story to tell, and I want to inspire people to tell their story in their own unique way and to achieve be their optimal self and to achieve their goals.
I agree with you there. And I'll remember more stories than if you just give me the facts. Mm. So we tend to remember stories more. And I remember a story of your uncle, Hubert, which I call him Pops. We love Hubert. Great memories of him. We don't see him much now, but had some good time together. And there was a story he told me when he lived in England and he was going to church. They had approached him and said, "You know what, why don't you find a church for your kind of people?" And I'm like, are you kidding me, really? They said that. I was appalled that they said that because, I don't see it. Just because I don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I heard a statement that I understand that I don't understand, but I still stand by you. And so education and learning about it and moving forward, I think, is so important, and that's why I wanted you to share some of your stories, some of your wisdom.
And even for myself, like going through public school, I was very fortunate in this. I had teachers that encouraged me, but often, even in my public school, I was often the only Black student. Now in high school, I went into sciences. I was very much the only Black female, and often the only female. Well, I remember in grade 10, it was grade 10 English, and there was a teacher there, and again, English is more subjective. She just refused, and I was very good. I was a very good student, very good student with French, English, the sciences, but she refused to give me good grades. And there was always an aggression in the way she approached and spoke to me. It was more negative. It was never encouraging. But it's amazing where she didn't defeat me. And this was the piece where I kept saying, you know what? I know there is a bias there, but somehow I'm going to make her see me as an individual. Me as this young girl who has a passion for learning, who has a passion to, want to do better. And so I remember she had given us an English essay to write. And I took it home, but on that day, I forgot the book I was supposed to write the essay on. But my friend, she lived upstairs. I ran up to her apartment. I said, "I have to do this essay. Can you please, loan me your book?" I finished that essay in an hour. I submitted it that day. That was back then. We didn't have the computers and technology. Wow. And I remember during that time, when you got back any exams or any assignments, it was whoever had the highest mark, they got theirs first, and then it went down.
Okay.
So then students know who was doing well versus who wasn't. Mm-hmm. I never really believed that's the way you should, But I remember she gave everybody back their essay, and mine was last. And I thought, oh no, what now? She gave me my essay, and she goes, this was one of the best essays I've ever seen written. And she gave me 11 plus out of 10.
Wow.
From that day forward, what perspective, what biases that she may have had, I was able to create a mind shift for her. So that somebody that followed behind me, she wouldn't just look at their skin color and say, you belong in this group. This is your potential.
That's right.
Yeah. So for the University of Waterloo, which is where I work, because of all the marches and what happened with George Floyd, the university knows that it has to address its own biases and its own structural as well as institutional barriers. So they created what's called a President Anti-Racism Task Force. I'm one of a number of people that's on that task force. And so the goal is to create opportunities for our Black students, our Indigenous students, and people of color, where those barriers have limited them from reaching their full potential. We're going to look at it from a broad perspective: mental health and wellness. What does that look like for an individual that needs that support? We're going to look at it from a safe space. One should be able to bring one's authentic self into the educational environment. But often people are wearing a mask because they can't be their authentic self, or they feel if they are, it will be used against them. So we need to have a space where you can always have continual, ongoing, open dialogue, not only for individuals, Black individuals, Indigenous and people of color, but for other individuals from different races, so that the more we can truly understand each other.
Yes.
And create sustainable, actionable change. There is also looking at pedagogy, the courses, the curriculum. It's history, Black history, Indigenous history should be taught. There should be scholarships that highlight the excellence, the contribution of Black and Indigenous people within Canada. From professional development and mentorship, how do we get sponsors, allies within the educational sector that says, this person's amazing, let's promote them, let's support them, let's encourage them.
That's great. That's great that the university is taking that initiative to do that.
Yeah, and that's
make changes.
And that's for faculty, that's for staff, that's for students.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What advice do you give, or what suggestions do you give for parents who might be listening to this? Parents, let's say, who are African Americans or Indigenous. Is there any advice from your experience?
Really allow them, because right now within the structure of the educational system, it's not highlighting the contribution that your culture has made. Go out there, seek out that information, talk to people in the community, talk to the elders in the community, talk to people so that history, that knowledge is passed on from generation to generation. Take pride in the contribution that we've made, but if it's not taught, sometimes you don't know. So then you're changing that perception. You're changing even your own internal dialogue of, oh no, we didn't do this. It's like, absolutely, we are inventors, we're scientists, we are artists, we're doctors, we're lawyers. We have had incredible contribution to society.
Absolutely. I was watching a movie called Gifted Hands, which inspired me, and it's the story of Ben Carson. And oh my goodness, it inspired my kids. We watched it over and over, and it was a mother who was dirt poor, was struggling, was fighting her own depression. She had these two boys, and the husband had left. He had another marriage, had two marriages going on at the same time, and so she was raising these kids. They weren't doing well in school, but she was adamant, she was persistent, she fought for them, and she constantly would tell them how great they were, how God made them smart, how just inspiring them to not settle for less than, because they are worthy. And the story showed the struggles, and at the end, for anybody who knows who Ben Carson is, he's a neurosurgeon who was one of the first to disconnect twins that were connected at birth, and they survived. It was under him who they survived their first ones, and he made an incredible contribution. He worked at Hopkins Hospital. He was the head of pediatrics there, and I just love that story. I love the story of overcoming. I love the story of, changing the thinking.
Yeah.
She changed the direction of her family because of what she kept the focus on. She kept the focus on them realizing their potential, not looking at where they're coming from, that they're, that it wasn't going to stay that way, and that they had the gift already in them. They had the potential in them. And I'll tell you, we were inspired, so inspired. I talk about this movie all the time to families. As a teacher, my kids, we watched it over and over. I love it. I love hearing those victory stories.
Yeah. And I think I tell my students, conceive what you want to achieve. Like, conceive in it, believe, and then start to act on it. Bring people into your life that will help you to achieve that. So conceive, believe, achieve, CBA. And it's really important, like when you go out there and you go, oh, I didn't know, we invented the street lights.
Yeah, you were telling me that. I didn't know that.
We invented the street lights. But the first successful heart surgery, it was a black person. Mm-hmm. There's just so many things that we've done. Our DNA, a lot of the research, the T cells research, it is our DNA. We are integral to the survival of the human race. But it's when you're not taught that, when that's not a part of your everyday life, and you're being told by negative comments or negative images, you stop believing. And so it's really important to have that mind shift and to say, no, I know that life there are going to be challenges, but I can overcome those challenges. I can really make a difference. And the other piece as well that I think is important, that for parents, and every parents have their own circumstances, be utterly engaged in the education of your child.
You were saying your parents were very engaged.
They were very engaged in our education. And I know for sometimes, given that individuals' jobs, they may not be able to go to every parent-teacher meeting, but I believe it takes a village to raise a child. Mm-hmm. Have a social network, a social a community that will support you. If for any reason you can't be there, is it a friend? Could it be somebody that you trust that will go meet with that teacher? Or if you can't, say to the teacher, given the circumstances of my job, I can't meet on this day, but can I schedule a meeting? But it's important that you're there. Because if the perception is, if you're not there, then you don't care. And that's not true.
Right. Sometimes we just don't put the priority on it, but of course we care. We know parents care, yes.
Yeah. And so let them know and I know sometimes it's hard because there can be a trust, there are challenges, the system has, created negative circumstances, and so you may not want to, but if you connect with someone and say to them, here's my story, here are my challenges, but this is what I want for my child, this is what I want for my family. This is what I see as my future and their future. Mm-hmm. And allow them to come into your life. I know it does take time to build trust, particularly when the structures have created negative situation, particularly when the structures have worked against you. But we all have to start somewhere.
Yes, and it reminds me of a story that I just shared with you a short while ago about a parent who was telling their child that she didn't like the teacher. And that parent who loves their child and is probably just saying what she feels didn't understand that she's actually taking away power from the teacher, because then the child says, oh, well, my mother doesn't like you anyways. So now that teacher can't help that child. And so it's important to try to work together because, like the geese, when they're together in the shape of a V, they can go further, higher. And I know together as a team, teacher and families and parents or whoever's taking care of that child, caregiver, really that child can move to higher limits. They can achieve a lot more when we work together as teams.
Yes, and I think it's important that most of communication is listening. It truly is listening.
Both sides.
Both
teacher
sides.
and being a teacher
The
and
teacher
a parent.
and parent have to listen to each other
Absolutely.
and listen to what's being said. And because if not, it'll be more mistrust, and it can be more an antagonistic relationship versus a supportive, collaborative relationship. Make no mistake, there is absolutely racism in the system.
Mm-hmm. That's why you guys are doing what you're doing.
And we have to break down those barriers, but to do that, we have to work together. And we've started the journey. We still have many miles to go, but like a relay race, we start and we pass the baton to the next generation.
Yes, I had like an aha moment when I would hear some of these stories. Like I didn't know this stuff was happening, and my own ignorance, but my experiences makes me who I am. Yeah. So it's great that we do hear the stories. I just know that we need to move past the stories. But you had mentioned something before with me, that knowing our history.
Yes, it's extremely important that we know our history, and everyone needs to know our history. It's not just the black person or the indigenous person or the person of color, but also the dominant individuals who have the power structure. They need to be culturally competent. They need to be culturally aware. They need to go out and seek out information, talk to people who are black and indigenous and people of color. Go to their events. Mm-hmm. You know, we live in the world of the World Wide Web. You know, Google all the different events that are out there. And because I think also when you get to know people, then you have a better understanding. Because sometimes we get our understanding from stereotypes. Mm-hmm. Not versus genuine communication and genuine interaction. And I think as a society, we do ourselves a disservice when we do that, because you're only getting a small part of a culture and a small part of who that individual truly is. And when you have diversity of thinking, diversity of perspective, diversity of thought, and problem solving and creativity, it makes the world so enriched. We are better for it.
That's right.
Yeah.
I know we all our families look different. Everyone's got a need. There's no family that's got it all, right? And you had shared with me, if a family has a need, if they're just growing up with a mother or with a father, can you just share with the audience?
So if for any reason, again, the traditional family is the mom, the dad. They are the parents that take care of the children. But again, families come in different forms. So if it's a single mom and if it's a male child and they need that male support, that male guidance, it's important that you reach out into the community and have a male mentor. It could be a grandfather, an uncle, a close friend, but it's important to have that. If it's, again, a single parent and it's a female child who may, a male child that needs that, that female interaction, then again, reach out to the community. If it's so then it's really important, wherever there's the gaps in your family, to bridge those gaps and tap into society at large. I come back, it takes a village to raise a child.
You're right.
And a society that doesn't take care of its children and doesn't take care of its elderly is a society that eventually will not be successful. It's not sustainable. Your children is your legacy. They are your future. And so it's really important that we take care of each other. So always, where there's a gap, reach out. And I know it's hard. There are a lot of single parents. Then it's really important that you reach out and say, you know what? I come from this perspective. I don't have all the answers. Can you help me to bring somebody? And there's nothing wrong to ask for help. Ask for help.
Yes.
Where that help may come from. It may come from the church. It may come from like individuals, a community organization. Mm-hmm. It may come from the schools, a family member. Then reach out and ask for help. Yeah.
Absolutely. Having 5 children, I had to reach out and ask for help. Just couldn't do it all myself. I had no choice. But this is wisdom for any parent, you know, because we do have such power, influence, not power, wrong word, influence really. We influence each other, and your stories also gave me different perspective, and it opened my mind. And I think we should always be open to learning from each other, because the more open we are, the more we'll learn. And I believe I'll still be learning at 80 years old, you know, because I far from ever will know it all, but we can learn so much from each other. And I hope people listening to some of the things you share, that they can take something that they can use in their life to help them in the direction they want to move through. But we all have such great potential, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time to share, because I know you want to inspire, you want to help, you want to move people from their thinking that they are not enough, that they are more than enough, right? They are more than enough, that they are worthy, that they deserve the life that they want. And as a parent, I want the life for my children that, you know, that's an amazing life, a life that they're living their dreams, you know, and that's possible for all of us. It doesn't matter color, race, it doesn't matter. And, you know, we just need to be here with each other, and like you said, listening.
And just really, it's not a hand out, it's a hand up. We are there to, if we lift each other up, we all have gifts. Every single one of us on this can contribute to making the planet a better place, to make humanity a better, better in the way they speak to each other, so love each other, interact with each other. And so when you dehumanize a group of people, you're doing the entire humanity a disservice.
Everybody, that's what they really want to know, that they are of a value, isn't it? There was this bulletin board at school that I absolutely loved, and I just wanted to end with this. And it says, all lives can't matter until Black lives matter. You are responsible for your actions. You are responsible for your words. You are responsible for your inaction. You are responsible for your choices. Tolerating racism is racism, and we want to stop that. We want to take action. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for being part of that team that's working on figuring out how to make things better at the university, so that the students coming through.
And it's for everyone. It's for the students, it's for the faculty, it's for staff, it's for the community at large.
That's right. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Parents make a difference.